We're live. All right. Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a esta sesión del día de hoy. El día de hoy me presento, mi nombre es Ana Lucía Costa, yo vengo por parte de Education USA Sonora. Y Education USA es una red del Departamento de Estado de Estados Unidos con más de 430 centros de asesoría en más de 175 países y territorios. Promovemos más que nada la educación superior estadounidense a estudiantes internacionales, ofreciendo información precisa, completa y actualizada de instituciones acreditadas de educación superior en Estados Unidos. ¿Ok? Nuestros servicios son los siguientes. Contamos con 5 pasos, que es investigar opciones, financiar estudios, completar solicitud de admisión, solicitar su visa y también prepararlos para su partida. ¿Ok? También el día de hoy les vengo a presentar esta beca que está abierta a la convocatoria ahorita, es para estudiar en agosto 2027. Es una beca de Opportunity Funds, así que los invito a revisar nuestra convocatoria y este es mi contacto, mi nombre otra vez es Ana Lucía Acosta, ese es mi correo a acosta@educationusa.org. Y el día de hoy, como parte de nuestros servicios, tenemos también la pues visita, digamos, de Cristian Villarosa de Hood College. Él nos va a hablar sobre cómo estar en Graduate Program y aparte sobre la institución Hood College. So, Cristian, the floor is yours and welcome.
Great, thank you for having me. Pull up my slides here. Hi everyone. Today we're going to be going over tips for applying to graduate schools in the United States. We'll give you a good overview of the process as a whole, and then we'll get a little bit more specific, focusing on the school that I work at, Hood College Graduate School. My name is Christian Villarosa. I'm Assistant Director of Graduate Admission here at Hood College. I'm also the main international student liaison. So if you do decide to apply with us, you'll probably be working with me at some point. On screen are the different ways to contact me. Either, whatever option you're most comfortable with is fine. So just going to leave that on the screen for just a second or two. So that way, if you're watching recording or whatever, you're able to grab that. Okay. So when we think about applying for graduate school, there's a whole list of different things that we're going to need to be aware of. Today's presentation will be going over quite a few of them. Obviously, depending on what graduate school you're looking at, there could be some differences in the process. There could be more items you need or less items you need. We're just trying to give you all a general overview of some of the items you can expect, and to give you some ideas on how to handle those parts of the process. We'll be looking at the general research part of looking at different schools, what a course-by-course evaluation is, talking about letters of recommendation, requirements on test scores, the statement of purpose or general essays, resumes, what it looks like as far as putting together your own application timeline, and then of course everybody's favorite part, we'll be talking a little bit about the finance part of it all, giving you guys some ideas on ways you might be able to fund your education, what Hood offers, and try to give you an idea of what you could expect from other institutions. So to begin, we'll just briefly talk about researching and visiting colleges. This, of course, is one of the most important decisions because it's deciding where you're going to be living for 1.5, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how long the program it is that you're applying for. We really stress that you do as much research as possible before deciding on which programs to apply to. Part of the at least here at Hood, what we have is we actually have our own virtual tour that you can take of our campus, because obviously, traveling to the United States to come visit schools might not be in the cards for everyone. So we recommend checking out school websites. so you can see if they have any type of online campus tour, whether it's video, whether it's just a 3D click through, anything like that, so you can get an idea of the size of the school to make sure it's something that you're going to be comfortable with. Some students like to go to really big schools, others like to go to smaller schools where they might have a little bit more individualized focus from their professors. Um, the other thing we always recommend is to take a good look at the program that you're interested in to make sure that the course content of the program matches up with what your career goals are. Not every computer science program will be working on the same parts of the field. Not every IT program is going to be the same. Not every nutritional science program is going to be the same. So make sure that based off of what it is that you're looking for, that you're asking the question, will your program help me reach my career goal? We want to make sure that, when you're investing this amount of money and time into coming to a whole new country to study, that you're making the best decision for yourself. So I would say those are definitely some of the things you want to consider when you're researching colleges. Obviously, if you're able to go on a visit to a couple different schools, on a quick trip to the United States. Obviously, that's something that would be great to do. But like I said before, if that's not something that's possible for you, make sure to take advantage of any online opportunities, whether it's the video tours, whether it's a virtual open house, just to get as much information as you can to make the best informed decision possible on your graduate school program. Next, we're going to talk about a handful of the different items that you can expect to be required as part of the application process. Depending on what school you are going to, obviously these will vary a little bit. The first item we'll talk about is a course-by-course evaluation. These evaluations essentially take your transcripts from your previous undergrad, or if you've already done some grad school transcripts, and converts them into something more comparable to a United States degree. This allows colleges to really understand what your background is as far as your education goes, make sure that your degree is equivalent to what they expect from a United States student, make sure that your grades are in line for what they hope their students have GPA-wise before starting a program, just to make sure that when you do join the program that you aren't going to be a student that falls behind or anything like that. Essentially, at least for a smaller school like Hood, the way it would work is you would send in your transcripts to one of these organizations. We personally take anyone affiliated with NACES or ACE. You would send your transcripts to them. They would take a look at them, evaluate them, and based off of those, they would send the college, in our case Hood, a report to let us know, this student, if they were a US student, would have a bachelor's degree in computer science with a 3.5 grade point average. And from there, we can say, okay, well, that's kind of in line with what we're looking for, an American student or a student from, any other country. This allows us to really kind of look at every student on the same playing field and make informed decision on acceptance. Uh, Obviously, there are some schools that can handle that internally, so you may just end up sending your international institution's transcript straight to the college. So this course-by-course evaluation part might look a little bit different at a bigger school compared to a smaller school. But as I said before, this is just an important process of each college being able to understand what kind of student you are to make sure that you're a good fit for their program. So just keep that in mind, that when you are looking at different schools, that you'll probably need to get in touch with your previous institution at some point to send over your transcript, possibly a copy of your diploma, and maybe other materials to your graduate school that you're applying to. So typically, this is kind of what the process looks like. As I mentioned before, you're going to submit your application to a NACES or ACE organization. They'll give you a reference number, all that good stuff. They'll let you know which documents it's going to be, mainly going to be your transcripts, but there might be other items involved depending on which company you go with. And then after that, the organization will verify those credentials. They may reach out to your schools just to make sure that everything looks accurate, is real. There have been instances, of course, where students try to get away with documents that might not be exactly theirs. So this, helps ensure any school that the documents that you are sending over are legitimate and are accurate to what type of student you are. The next item I'll talk about is the letter of recommendation. Even here at Hood, not every program requires letters of recommendation. It really depends on which one you're entering. So, like I'll keep saying with a lot of these different items, it really varies on school what will be required. Um, Typically with letters of recommendation, you're going to be asking somebody who is familiar with your work ethic, whether it's somebody who was a professor at a previous school you went to, maybe your employer, or somebody that you've worked with, a coworker. Other times they'll be okay with more personal recommendations, whether it's a friend or a family member. Just make sure that you're looking into the rules that the school gives to you on who and who not to ask for a recommendation. Um, Obviously, sometimes it can be entirely up to you. The big thing that I always recommend is that you ask somebody who can really speak on your specific strengths that would apply to graduate school. Don't ask somebody who you know personally that you might not have been able to get a work assignment in on time for, or what I mean, make sure it's somebody that can really speak to your strengths and not that won't be criticizing you, anything silly like that. Just make sure it's somebody that you really feel like you can trust to get the job done and have it be done well. The other item that I always recommend with letters of recommendation is to ask ahead of time, way before they're due. That way you're being respectful to the person that is willing to write the letter of recommendation to make sure that they're getting it in on time and they won't have to rush it. A rush letter of recommendation can be obvious, as the level of thought put into it might not be the same as somebody who asked in advance. So just make sure you're being courteous when you are asking the favor of a letter of recommendation by giving the recommender, enough time, multiple weeks in advance before it's due. So that way, one, your application can be completed on time, but two, that the letter of recommendation can be well thought out and thorough. Next, we'll talk about test scores. Certain institutions will require a GRE or GMAT scores. These are, general standardized testing, reading, math testing that will help institutions evaluate, what kind of student you are from, you know, essentially all disciplines. Here at Hood College, we don't require them. The only test that we require would be English language test. We accept 3 different ones. I know that other institutions might accept more than this. Other institutions might accept less than this. So make sure that you're always, as I've been saying, checking in to make sure that you're fulfilling all the requirements for whatever test that they require. On screen here are the minimums that here at Hood College we accept for testing results. I would say that normally schools are probably going to be within this range. Obviously, once again, that can vary. But just make sure that when you're studying for an English test, if your school does require one, that you are aware of what score you need to get. And so that way, if for some reason it doesn't go well the first time and you have to take it again, you already kind of have an idea of how much more extra study you might have to do or anything like that. Obviously, every school is going to be a little bit different, so just make sure that you're checking in with them to see if they might require these additional tests, or if they, some take, except I think it's the Pearson test as well. Some might not accept the Duolingo test. So just make sure that you're checking in on which tests that you'll have to take. Next is the statement of purpose. This is essentially an essay that really kind of explains why you want to be a part of that graduate program specifically. Make sure that you're reading the instructions carefully. Some will ask for 500 words, others will ask for a whole entire page or two. The length requirements will also vary depending on schools. So just make sure that you're reading the instructions. If you are applying to multiple schools, don't just copy and paste the same exact essay to every single school. One, because the instructions are probably going to be different, but two, there could be some nuances between, differences between programs that you should highlight in your statement of purpose for each school specifically. So make sure that you're putting in real effort here. Don't just try to write one essay and send it out to 6 or 7 different programs that you're applying for. Always make sure that you're starting, these are basic essay lessons, and we'll go over a little bit more in depth, I think, in another slide here. But always start with a compelling introduction. It's always important to make sure that you're really kind of drawing in your reader. They're, I mean, if assuming they are reading all of these essays, they have a lot of essays to read. So make sure that you're keeping it compelling and interesting. Um, Make sure not to plagiarize. If you are going to quote somebody, make sure that you cite it properly. Make sure to look into how to cite something if you're not familiar with how to cite something or give credit to someone. There have been instances where students, they just aren't aware of the exact rules on how to cite or credit someone with work, and they end up getting flagged for plagiarism. Some schools will give you a second chance, while others might just throw out your application completely. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on those guidelines. I'm not, what I mean, I'm not trying to scare you or anything, just trying to make you aware of these different rules. Always make sure to give good examples to support your ideas. And then my favorite part, ask someone to proofread your work. Obviously, um, a fresh set of eyes on something, I always like to think can find something you might not have noticed. I also, when I was going through school, I always recommended reading your essay out loud. Sometimes when you're reading out loud, it's easier to notice certain mistakes in punctuation, in particular. So, when you're putting together this statement of purpose, just think of these, handful of rules to write the best statement of purpose possible. In some instances, schools will ask for more of a general essay. They might ask you a specific question on what do you think, 5 years from now, if you were to get a degree in AI sciences, what do you think AI will look like in 5 years? I don't know. It could really depend, obviously, but it might not just be a general statement of purpose. It might be a full-on question for an essay. So, these are just a couple more helpful hints and tips on how we should think about writing the essay. As I said before, check your specific requirements to make sure that you're writing enough words in the structure that they ask for. Typically, when we write a general essay, I always kind of think of the 5-paragraph structure. If you're not familiar, that's the intro, 3 supporting pieces as 3 different paragraphs, and then your conclusion. This is just a really easy way to structure an essay if you're not really exactly sure how to start. Always just kind of think of, obviously I need a start introduction, obviously I need a conclusion, and then maybe 3 supporting statements and flesh those out as 3 separate paragraphs. If you do that, you probably have a strong enough essay to submit at that point. Obviously, do some research on the topic. Don't just kind of go in blind to it with, the knowledge that you have. Do a little bit of research on the topic so that way you have extra evidence to discuss during your supporting piece in those 3 paragraphs I mentioned earlier. Always, use your inner voice. Talk about yourself, your academic achievements, your goals, what is driving you to study in this school. That's kind of going back to that statement of purpose. You know what I mean? Just make sure that you're staying on topic, regardless of what the essay is about. Make sure you're staying on topic. So if it is about a statement of purpose, make sure that you're talking about yourself and what you hope to get out of it, not, some random industry thing that you thought was cool. Talk about yourself and why you feel like you're a good fit for the program. Um, you know what I mean, hook the readers with relevant information about you. Make sure to not use an intention getter unrelated to the topic of your essay. Like I said before, stay on topic, structure your essay well, follow the instructions, get somebody to help you proofread it, or, you know, do additional, reading it out loud to proofread it yourself, and then don't plagiarize. Those are really kind of my couple of tips when it comes to writing essays or statement of purposes. It's really, it's a, in my opinion, it's not anything too scary. It's just make sure that you're following through with what they're asking of you, and you'll be just fine. Next, I just want to show a couple examples of resumes. We have, one that looks a little more stylish and one that's, a little, I don't want to say bland, but it gets the job done. Either one of these are totally acceptable. Obviously, depending on your program, like if you're going into a graphic design program, maybe go with something like the left. If you're more of the computing type, obviously the right would be just fine. Like I said, really just depends on what program you're applying for. Um, or maybe just what you're more comfortable with, honestly. It's totally up to you. Let's look at the similarities here. Obviously, both of them talk about, their education. That's obviously important. Talks about what programs you've been in before. Whether or not there's exact similarities between your undergrad program and your grad program you're applying to, that might not necessarily always be the case, but if you can try to find similarities, whether it's in, different types of management pieces or different types of research that you may have done, perhaps try to include that when discussing your education. Same goes for experience. Here she mentions her internships. This student mentions their different job roles. When it comes to talking about your job experience, obviously in graduate school, we see a lot of students that are switching from, say fine arts to computing or the other way around. So I would say the best course of action is that when we talk about our job experience, um, write pieces that can be applicable to uh, many situations. So obviously, if you worked in retail, you can say how much of a people person you were, that you had to use social skills, or you know what I mean. If you were in charge of inventory, that you were able to manage, large stocks of inventory. Skills that are transferable between different disciplines, I think that's the best, those are the best items to highlight when putting together a resume for a program. Now, obviously, if you're a computer science major and you're applying for a computer science graduate program, there's going to be a whole host of things that are exactly identical across the board. If that's you, great, just go ahead and do that. But if you're a student that, you did 3 years as a teacher and you're kind of done with that and you want to switch over to information technology, you know what I mean? Just do your best in terms of sharing what skills that you can take away from your job experience that can be applied to any job in the future. Um, you know what I mean? I don't think there's anything to worry about when it comes to switching career paths. That's a very common thing in the graduate school. So if that ends up being your experience is completely different to the graduate program, that's totally okay. Just do your best to share what it is that you learn there and what you hope to apply from that job to any future jobs that you end up having. Um, and then after that, if you have other work experiences or extracurricular items that you may have done that could apply to a program, obviously list those. I myself just applied to a graduate program recently, our management information systems program, and I talked about how I was a track and field coach for a couple of years. I had to do a lot of different managing, whether it was team schedules, workouts, equipment, all those different types of things. And that's what I talked about in both my statement of purpose and in my resume to show my management skills. You know what I mean? So obviously it's going to vary for every student, but just try to think of the different things that make you unique, skills that are transferable in the future, and put those together in both your statement of purpose and your resume. So I hope that helps a little bit with those types of items. Next, I'm going to talk about the application timelines. Obviously, as an international student, compared to a domestic student, we always say that the international student deadlines are a lot earlier than they would be for a domestic student. The main reason for that, obviously, is the visa processing part of it all. I mean, depending on, where you are, depending on, what's going on in the United States, the process can be very short. It can be very long. So we always just recommend, just get everything done as soon as you can. So the dates that we kind of listed here, you know, we would say early July if you're planning on joining us for the fall semester, which starts in August. And then, typically spring for us here in the US normally starts, at the end of January for most programs. We recommend, obviously that date's past now, the 15th. I would say, mid to late November, early December would probably be that sweet spot of, if you could get all of your application items submitted by then you're probably going to at least have a good chance at getting everything completed and being able to travel to the United States in time for your program to start. So we always recommend, obviously with every, if you're doing 2 or 3 different grad applications, there's going to be 4 or 5 different items for each. That's a lot to keep track of, a lot of deadlines to keep track of. So we recommend, keep a calendar that includes all those application deadlines. For me, and this goes to the second point, I always like putting stuff in my phone. That way, when I'm scrolling on whatever app it is that's new and fancy, I'll get a notification on my phone that says, "Hey, time's up. Get on your application. Get off your phone. Get on your application." So I think that's a really good idea to keep in mind when trying to balance all of the different pieces of the application that I just mentioned in the past couple of slides and all the deadlines that relate to them. Obviously, like I said, for international students, you want to get on the ball as quickly as you can. Some schools, including Hood College, and I'll go back into this on the next slide. I think it's on the next slide here. No, it's not. But rolling admission is available for a lot of schools, which means that you can pretty much apply as early as you want to. So just keep that in mind. If you already know, like if you're interested in Hood and you already know I want to start in fall of 2026, you can start the application process now and have a decision, in the next 2 weeks. Assuming that's how long it takes you to get all of your application items into us. So I mean, the earlier the better. Always check to see if your school accepts early applications on a rolling admissions process because I think that's a really good thing to take advantage of, especially as an international student, just to make sure that you get all your paperwork in so that way you can get the visa process started as soon as possible. Obviously, some schools offer a deferral process, so that way if, items do fall behind or you're not going to get your visa in time, you can just say, hey, is there any way I can move to the next semester? And a lot of schools will accommodate that. So just a couple things to keep in mind. Next is the big one, finances. Obviously, finances are going to be one of the more important pieces when it comes to studying in the United States. Many students, they look at different scholarships. Um, Obviously, in the U.S., some scholarship options are limited for international students. But one thing to keep in mind when you're doing your research on scholarships, if this is something that you're going to need, um, deadlines are involved in scholarship applications as well. So that goes back to my previous point on the last slide of, um, you know, adding to your calendar scholarship deadlines as well. Make sure you're keeping yourself on track of all of this because there's a lot of different pieces involved, depending on, each case is different, but there's always going to be a lot of pieces involved. So if you are thinking about scholarships, also keep in mind that you're going to have deadlines for those as well. So keep that into consideration when thinking about how long it's going to take for you to complete all of your application items. So here's some of the other options available. These are what Hood has available for our international students. We don't have scholarships internally directly for international students, but if you scan the QR code, you'd be taken to our international student funding page. We have a whole list of external scholarship and loan options. The biggest thing, though, that a lot of our students take advantage of, and a lot of other schools have, so if you're not looking at Hood, which is okay, um, and you're looking at a different school, always consider graduate assistantships or teaching assistantships. These are really good opportunities for you to get some level of work experience in a department while being on an F1 visa, because F1 visa students obviously have restrictions on what work they're going to be able to do. Most, if not all of it, is really going to have to be on campus. So consider those opportunities to get to work with your department um, or a department of your interest uh, while you're studying at the school. Um, so here's a little chart that kind of shows again what we're thinking about as far as the application items go. If you're considering Hood, this is what it looks like for us. You're gonna do the online application through the application portal. You're gonna get your course by course evaluation done. You'll do your English test, and then depending on what program, you'll have the different requirements documents wise, resume, statement of purpose, reference letters, all those items. And then, of course, you'd have to submit an application fee. So when we think about finances again, application fees are something that you're going to have to consider. Every not every school has, a big application fee, but every school typically has some level of application fee. So, I mean, if you're really looking at 10 colleges or graduate schools, you might want to shrink that down a little if the application fee is going to be a problem. Um, Moving on, now I just want to talk a little bit about the graduate school at Hood College very briefly here. We have around over, I believe over 100 students now from over 35 different countries, depending on the year. We've serviced students from all across the world. So if you were worried about being, a lone international student here in Frederick, Maryland, um, you would not have to worry about that. We have such a big international student community. The and if I didn't mention previous, Hood College, we're located just an hour west of the nation's capital, so it's a really good location. Um, but like I said, we have plenty of international students from all over the place, which is really cool. We offer a wide variety of different programming for students. We have many different master's degrees, computing, business, bioscience, all those different types of disciplines. We have doctorate programs as well that are available for international students. As far as tuition goes, we have some of the most affordable tuition costs in the entire region. So if you are looking at the East Coast, please do consider Hood College. We offer classes typically in the evenings, mainly to service our domestic students so they can work during the day. I mean, if you have an OPT opportunity while you're here at Hood, you might be doing that during the day, and then you'd be able to go to your classes in the evening. So the work school balances out well. We also offer online and hybrid formats for students as well. Um, if you are going to be an F1 visa student, a good chunk of your classes will have to be in person, but obviously you'll be able to take a online or hybrid class here and there. Going back to the financial part of it all, we do have a couple of different opportunities for you to be able to get work experience while you're studying here. Um, you know, General internships, CPT, OPT opportunities. We do have 100% approval rate for our OPT and CPT options, which is really, really, really good. Um, the uh, the bulk of our programs have STEM OPT extension eligibility as well. We have a lot of international students that take advantage of that. So if you are wanting to stay here in the United States to get some additional work experience after graduation, we do offer that extension for all of our STEM programs. Um, Obviously, if it's not a STEM program, you can still apply for OPT after you're done your graduate school. But I do always want to point out this STEM OPT opportunity because as somebody who works with international students, that's a question I get quite often. But yes, a majority of our programs that we offer to our international students are eligible. So way back at the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned when you research schools that you want to consider all sorts of things. One thing that I may not have mentioned was location. Location is important, obviously, because you know what I mean. If you're very not good with cold weather, you might not want to consider a school up north. If you prefer the warmer weather, you'd obviously want to consider a school down south. Um, the other thing to consider is housing. Some cities that you're going to may be way more expensive than some of the other locations that you're considering. Here at Hood College, we are offering on-campus housing for our graduate students. You get your own place. I believe majority of the time the floors are completely grad school only, so you're not going to have to deal with undergraduate students, which is also really, really good. So if that is something you might be interested in, if you are considering Hood, please consider scanning that QR code as well. These are what our application deadlines look like, and I want you to kind of when you're looking at these, you can kind of think of these as what you might see across the board. Obviously, every school is different, but when we're thinking about spring, like I mentioned before, that mid to late November, early December is when we recommend having all of those items in by. If we're looking at the fall intake, so that'd be August, early to mid-July. Here at Hood, we do offer summer intake depending on the program. That's extremely limited just because of the courses that we're able to offer in the summer and how many students are interested. But if that's something you might want to take a look at, we do have those offerings available as well. As I mentioned before, the big thing is rolling admission. So if you are ready to get started on that fall 2026 application, you can already get started on that and get a decision pretty quickly. Once we have all of your application items in, we typically have a decision sent out to you within 48 hours, assuming it's not like a holiday or a weekend. So we're usually quick to get back to you, so that way you can get started on that visa appointment, the visa paperwork, the I-20 paperwork, all that good stuff, as soon as possible. International events. We have a lot of international events here at Hood College. The one that was literally earlier this week, because it's International Education Week, this Monday, we had our Parade of Flags, which is, a very popular event here on campus. But we celebrate a lot of stuff. On the left there is just some of the items we do. If you celebrate a certain holiday, or if there's an event, whether it's religious or cultural, that you're interested in sharing with Hood College, we always welcome that you bring that across to us, and we'd be happy to work with you to set something up. So like I mentioned before, our international community is really, really big here at Hood. So, if that's something that you would make you feel more comfortable when traveling the United States, please definitely consider Hood College. The last item I just want to go over, and once again, this goes back into the research thing I mentioned at the beginning. We are offering our next, it is obviously in a couple months just because we have the holidays coming in and everything like that, and then spring semester starts. Our next one is going to be in March, our virtual admission open house. Now, if you're not interested in Hood College, I recommend looking in to see if the school that you are interested in has a similar program to this. It's essentially a Zoom open house. So you'd log in via Zoom. You'd get to go check out the different breakout rooms that include each program. So you'd be able to meet with different graduate faculty. We have different rooms for international applicants and finances, current graduate student room where you'd be able to meet the students and ask them questions about their experiences. We do tend to have quite a few international students as part of that, which I think is really nice. But it's just a good opportunity to learn about Hood College in general. So like I said, obviously if you're not, if Hood is too small, or it's not the region that you're looking at, make sure that you're at least researching to see if the other schools that you're interested in have these types of opportunities, just to make sure that you're making the right choice for you. So I know that was a lot, but that was everything for the most part. We talked about the application process as a whole. So obviously, hopefully this can be helpful to you. Always feel free to come back to this because I know we're going to have a recording of it. If you're just looking for tips and ideas on how to apply to graduate school. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our general inbox is right there. Go further at hood.edu. We'll be more than happy to help answer any questions that you might have, especially if you're interested in Hood College. But I mean, if you're just trying to get more information in general, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help you. So thank you.
Excellent, Christian. Thank you so much for your time and for all the information that you shared today with us. All right, so we will see you next time.
Yes,
Thank
thank you for
you.
having me.
Yay. All right. And